welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing something a bit different and rather interesting in my personal opinion. I only read fiction, right? I never read non-fiction or memoirs or anything like that. However, I got given a non-fiction book for my birthday and I thought what could be quite nice is to do like a solo reading vlog of just one book, and I'm going to read my first non-fiction and discuss the points and topics and my thoughts as we go. So this is a lot more of a chilled out reading vlog. If I look more dishevelled as it goes on because I'm ill, just please ignore that. But the book we are going to be reading is Invisible Women: Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. This sounds very interesting actually. Don't worry about the bookmark, that's only to mark the beginning because there's like contents pages and things beforehand. It's all about sexism and how things aren't equal, I suppose, in the eyes of women and men. So I think this will be quite a really interesting read, to be perfectly honest. I'm not normally one for non-fiction, but this actually does sound quite interesting and intriguing, and as someone who has had to deal with many health problems that male doctors specifically have not been very understanding about, shall we say, and have not known exactly how to help, I do think this will be quite interesting because there is like a bit of different categories of topics in this. So there's like daily life, the workplace, going to the doctor when like pills and things don't work, public life, all sorts of bits like that. So there's different parts and different, obviously, chapters within there. So yeah, I do think this will be quite interesting, and we're just going to crack on and read it and see what I think. I have started Invisible Women, so sorry there's not been much footage, but I listened to a load of this on audio yesterday whilst I was filming a art video. So I made it to page 92, which is chapter 4, The Myth of Meritocracy. And so far it's actually quite interesting. Like, there's bits that I'm more interested in than others, if I'm being completely honest. Like, overall it's really, really eye-opening and informative and just really interesting to read, which I didn't think I would find, especially not being a non-fiction girly. However, some bits of it, as I say, have sort of stuck with me more so. It's when she starts quoting like data and numbers and things, and like dates and facts and figures and all this, my brain gets a little bit lost and muddled with so many numbers going on in it. But it's been very interesting so far. So she was asking, like, she was posing questions and things like, can snow clearing be sexist? And are gender neutral bathrooms with urinals really gender neutral? No, they're not, because the chances are, because she was saying that obviously women have like a really long queue for the bathroom, men tend to be quicker because women have more issues like periods and things to deal with, and pregnancy and stuff means that they go more. And so this place had introduced gender neutral bathrooms, but they'd put urinals in there. And so obviously what was happening was the women weren't using them because firstly they don't use urinals, and secondly they would have felt awkward to have been in there whilst men were in there. And so then what happens is the men ended up using every bathroom, whereas the women only used a certain select few. So then it was all in favour and advantage of the men again. And she sort of said, like, in terms of when people think of human, they think of man automatically. She was also saying about how basically when kids are like thinking up what careers they want to take in schools, they think fireman, policeman, things like that, rather than firefighter, police officer. It can be either or, men or women, and that men typically get paid more and yeah, just that whole thing. So it's very feminist and very informative. So I'm actually really, really enjoying this, which I didn't think I would to this extent. Like, obviously it's good and it's like really interesting, but yeah, I think in my head, because I thought, oh, non-fiction, I don't really read that, I'd sort of associated it with a negative, not negative, but like I thought I might be bored or something, but actually it's quite a nice one to get through whilst I'm doing other tasks. So I'm kind of like listening to the audiobook at the moment. I'm excited to get to the part about like doctors and medicines and things like that, because that's something that has kind of impacted me. And it's quite interesting which bits I can reflect on and relate to more. So yeah, so far so good, and I'm actually quite enjoying this. Guys, this is so interesting. Like, I'm currently listening to the audiobook just whilst I sort and clean some of my jewellery, because I haven't done it in so long and it's so tarnished. She's talking all about like how the data gap is there because the data for women doesn't exist, because they've just like assumed by like male standards. She's also said that women often get more like health implications from their job, even though men are like more likely to die in an accident at work. Like, that's not the only way that it can affect you. She was also talking about like employment factors, so how it was so interesting because like most of the jobs that had adverts were advertised with a male image, and certain specific wording, and a lot of the time when the women applied, more men were taken, like a higher percentage of men, but when they were blindly auditioned, so like they couldn't see who was auditioning, but they just went by what they said and stuff, then like the number of women employed skyrocketed. And it's just so interesting, because she even said like if you think the word genius, you probably think of a man, or like when you think human, you probably think of a man. So now she's kind of saying about how like women get more health issues from things more designed for like male size, so female pianists, because women typically have smaller hands than men, it's harder to play like the keyboard span as well. Like, men have no problem, but obviously if you've got smaller hands, if you're a woman or a man with smaller hands, then it is more difficult. And she's also talking about like phone sizes and things, where it's like meant to be one size fits all, but it's actually one size fit men, because like it's designed with a man's hand span in mind. So basically phones probably won't get much larger because they've hit like the maximum male hand span, but like women can't use iPhones and like zoom as easily or take like one-handed photos and things, because the size of the phone is almost the size of the woman's hand, which is so like, obviously I've always struggled with personally like doing anything on my phone one-handed, hence I have a pop socket so that I can like, you know, get a bit more grip on it, because I have such small hands. But like, it's just something that I'd never, like, I knew it was a thing, but I didn't know that it's because they'd designed it off of like a male base guideline, I suppose. This book is so interesting. Guys, this book was so good. It made me angry how good it was, like, and the content in it made me angry as well, because so many of these things that cause women issues is due to there not being enough data, because everyone just assumes man is human. I'm not a non-fiction lover, right? I'm not a non-fiction girl. I'm not gonna suddenly start getting into non-fiction, but this was so good. And like, there was a page that I turned the corner over, there's a small paragraph that I want to read you that was literally, I felt so seen, and I was like, oh my god, that basically sums up my entire previous last year of agonising. Just to summarise, she's saying that this woman Kathy went to the doctor and was saying that she had all these pains and all these troubles, and the doctors were doing some tests, but they said to her that it was all in her head and all in her imagination. So then it says, but they weren't in her imagination. In fact, Kathy turned out to have potentially life-threatening uterine fibroids that required surgical intervention, something that was only discovered after she demanded an ultrasound. She wasn't anxious, although after 9 months of being told she was crazy, who could blame her if she was? She was anemic. That is literally the story of my life for the past year. Eventually, I got my fibroids sorted with well, not really sorted because they're never sorted and fully gone, but I had surgery to remove some, but we don't need to go into that. But my anxiety has spiralled so much, mainly due to that and other contributing factors. But anyway, this book, some parts of it I didn't like connect with as deep as others. Not to say because it doesn't affect me, but because some of the things I felt on such a much more personal level that I could relate to. But overall, this was just fascinating. Like, as someone who doesn't like non-fiction, definitely if you like feminist and just eye-opening reads, read this. This is so good. I feel like everyone needs to read this. I don't really want to give it a rating because it's non-fiction. That is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please give it a like. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll see you in another one very soon.